Reddit, what have your pets done that is worryingly smart? I have a 3-month-old pup who got dirt in her eye one day. The eye kept tearing up and she held it partly shut for a few hours. During that time I felt really bad for her and handed out a lot of treats. Since then, when I am eating, she begs by winking that eye with a tiny whimper. Her wink is non-stop. If she's called by someone else in the home she looks at them with perfect eyes. I get the broken eye once she gets the goods fully working eyes. She is a mix from a stray. My cat's done something similar. My husband and him were playing and somehow he managed to twist his foot. For a month after, every time he walked past a room my husband was in he'd start limping. He made sure my husband saw it every time. Once he was safely past the door he would resume walking completely sound. We had a Dachshund growing up and he could tell when my mom was going to have a seizure. He would start circling her over and over, barking. Ironically, he ended up with epilepsy himself but it didn't shorten his lifespan. They helped each other out. He lived 17.5 years. I miss that dog. Our Dachshund had seizures too. When he couldn't walk, would cramp and vomit a little. He didn't had it often though. He lived for about 15 years. Every day when my brother and I pull in the driveway from school we can see our dog on my brother's bed in the window above the garage, where he knows he isn't allowed to be. When we walk into the house he is laying behind the living room couch and picks his head up and looks at us like he's been sleeping there all day. I had a yabby in my freshwater tank that is a genius. I one day watched him gather some food pellets into his cave, wait for the fish to eat the rest, then a few minutes later place them in front of the cave entrance, then attacked and ate a fish that came to eat the pellets. He stockpiled his meal to later bait an even better meal. That sucker is in his own tank now. That's brilliant. My yabby used to arrange plastic rocks in different color combinations every day. One day it may be one pile for each color, and the next all the blue and yellow on one side of the tank and the pink and green on the other, etc. He was probably really bored. One of my dogs knows how to open door handles. The other one can't even figure out that he's not supposed to eat rocks. It's a mixed bag with my pets. When I get asked to do some things, I'll groan jokingly and do the thing anyway. Now, when I call my dog while she was sleeping or if I accidentally nudge her at the foot of the bed, then she groans with attitude like I would. Kind of adorable. Kind of freaky. My dog does this too. I swear he has such an attitude. My cats teamed up and got a tub of butter off the kitchen worktop, took it outside, removed the lid and had an all-you-can-eat butter party. A friend's cat figured out how to get the cover off the butter container so he could lick it. The funny part is he learned how to put it back on so my friend and his wife would uncover it and find huge dents in the middle of the stick. It took them months to figure out what was going on, and now they have to buy locking butter dishes. They figured out that if they want the toy or bone the other has, to go to the front door and bark like a stranger is walking up to the house. When the other dog shows up to assist in barking, run like heck to get the toy. It's not just clever but dishonest in the worst kinda way. Just wait till they start using it to steal your spot on the couch. Growing up, I had a yard that was surrounded by fence except at the entrance where the cars came in at the front. My dog knew she wasn't allowed to go outside the yard, so when we'd call her and she was out gallivanting, she would go to the neighbor's yard in the back, hop the fence and come back over, then strut around the backside to the front like, hey, I've been here the whole time. I only found out because one day I was walking around the house calling for her and caught her. Sneaky bee. This is similar to my dog. Before I wouldn't allow him on one of the couches, a rocking lazy boy style one, but he loved it. At night he would sleep in it, but if he heard me coming downstairs, he'd quickly jump off, run over to his bed and try to time it so it looked like he was coming from his bed as I walked down the last set of steps. Brilliant plan, except I could still see the chair rocking. I had a cat that learned how to open the fridge, and then my dog started begging my cat for food, and then the cat started getting into the fridge just to feed the dog. I patiently await the day where my pets decide to overthrow me and have me fixed. I'm not fighting it. That'll only make it worse in the long run. That's hilarious. It reminds me of a cat and dog I had a long time ago. The cat was always up on the counter and knocked leftover food down for the dog, who was jumping up and down with joy. That taught me to never leave any food out anymore after he ate half a chocolate cake that way. We were looking after a friend's dog. We came home from work in the evening with a huge pile of dirt by the front door. The dog, and like every other time we came home, was lying on the couch looking very guilty about something. You know the look. It took us forever to figure out where the dirt came from. We had an old flower pot downstairs on a shelf. The pot had been emptied by the front door and the pot returned to the shelf like nothing had happened. I can just imagine the pupper picking up the flower pot, walking around with it, then dumping it out, and he's like, crap, I'll just put it back on the shelf, they won't notice. I have 2 horses, Red and Mickey. They are yarded next to each other, and there is enough of a gap in the fence that a clever horse may work out that they can just manage to pinch the other's hay through it. Red took it a step further and realized that if he could steal Mickey's hay, Mickey could steal his. So he waits until Mickey is distracted by his bucket feed, and then Red takes his own hay from his own feeder and deposits it across the yard, where it's safe. He then goes back and takes Mickey's hay and deposits it where it is safe. Then Red eats his hard feed and 2 lots of hay. We had to move all the hay feeders. My former horse was a big escape artist, so we put him in a small electrified pen. He was barefoot, so he figured out that if he stood in the sandy soil and just barely touched his whiskers to the electric fence, it would ground out, and then he could jump or bust out without getting shocked. He understood electricity a lot better than I do. My cat figured out how to fill up my bathtub. He learned how to close the drain and would turn the water handle and would just sit there and watch the tub slowly fill up. It took me weeks to figure out what was going on. He may be planning to drown you. Also watch out for any toaster or hairdryer moving activity. Be careful. Not current pet but a dog I had as a teenager. Dog jumps up on the couch. No, you're not allowed on the couch. Go lie in your bed. Dog leaves the room. A moment later he returns with his bed and throws it on the couch. Gets back up on the couch in his bed and stares at me. Fair enough. This would be my exact response if my dog is smart enough to understand my meaning and also derive a loophole from it. Then wow. Guess I'll applaud that. One of my cats learned how to turn the internet off. I mean, he realized everybody goes crazy when he goes behind the TV stand and messes up with the wires. So when we're not paying enough attention to him, usually if we're on our phones or the computer, he just unplugs the router. I don't think he knows how much power he has. Every morning for breakfast I always eat fruit, and that weekend there was a farmer's market selling fruit for cheap, so I bought a ton. I couldn't fit them in the fridge, so I left a few bags on the side in the dining room. Reachable distance. I crap you not. I woke up and was surprised to see an apple next to me. Over the next few days, my dog would get up in the morning, go in the bag, and get a fruit to put next to me on the bed. He proceeded to do this for the next 2 weeks until we ran out. I thought it was the cutest thing ever, but a part of me is like, holy crap. Your dog brought you breakfast in bed. That's the cutest thing I've read all day. When my dad was having a difficult time in life, he moved into my apartment. He's really into sports and mostly deaf, so when he enthusiastically cheers for his beloved Detroit Tigers, he doesn't realize how loud he is. One early evening while I was asleep, because I work midnights, the Tigers scored or something and my dad loses his mind, which woke me and my cat up. I grumbled and closed my eyes, but my cat Mike was not having it. She walked into the living room and all I hear is my dad go, "Oh, sorry, I'll be quiet." And then my cat walked back into my room, jumped back on the bed, and we both went back to sleep. I don't know how to break this to you, but I think you're living in a sitcom. We used to keep my childhood dog in the garage while we were at school. She once found an old garage door opener, figured out how it worked, and buried it in an old dead potted plant in the garage. When we left for the day, she would nose around in the dead plant till the door opened and go play with the neighbor's dog in their living room, because she also figured out how to open their sliding door and let herself in. My cat was sleeping on her cat tree when I walked over to look through stuff on the table next to the tree. I scratched her on the head and woke her up, then turned away to do whatever it was I was there for. I felt a tap on my shoulder, so I turned around, and as soon as I was facing the cat, she reached out and smacked me across the face. She then went back to sleep. We have a cat tree in the kitchen and you have to walk by it. It's near the doorway. If she didn't like the way you pet her or she wants food you didn't provide, she'll whack you when your back is turned. Not so much worrying as it is somewhat annoying and funny, but my golden will walk up to the Xbox, look at the Xbox button, boop it with his nose and wait for the light to turn on and the chime to sound, and then just walk away all satisfied looking. For a couple of months I would come home from work and notice the Xbox was on, but no, I had turned it off. I accused my fiancé of leaving it on until one day I was in the next room and heard the chime. So I ran in and he was walking away from it. Then he started to get flagrant about it and do it right in front of me, and eventually turn it off if I was playing it and he wanted my attention. Goldens are a trip. I love my golden for these reasons. One night I had paused a movie on my laptop and fell asleep. He was laying at the bedroom door and could see the movie. He isn't allowed in the room but he thought we should keep watching, so he snuck onto my bed and hit the space bar. I didn't wake up until the loud fight scene well in and freaked out. He was just curled up on my bed watching. My cat will look very intensely at where I'm sitting, making me think I'm sitting on a toy or maybe some treats, so I'll get up and she'll quickly curl up in my spot so I can't sit back down. Then I have to go find a new seat to sit in. She taught the other one to do it too. They are seat stealing buttholes. I would do the old trick when my cat yawns to stick my finger in his mouth. Dunno why I do it. I guess it's just funny to see his expression when boom, suddenly finger. So the other day he is sitting on my lap, and I yawn. He wakes up and does a stretch, perfectly putting his paw in my mouth. Boom, suddenly paw. Still no idea if by accident or if planned. His smug expression afterwards makes me lean towards the latter. Not as much smart, rather worryingly calculated. On Christmas Eve I was wrapping the cat's favorite treats because I'm that person. The three boys weren't too fussed about this, but Amber, the princess, wanted the treats now. Of course she's a cat and has no concept of Christmas, so I gave her one of her normal treats and put the presents away. She was not amused by this. Now the thing about Amber is that she never came upstairs. She had tiny little legs that made the journey too long, so she commandeered the downstairs instead. But that night I was woken up by weird cat chirping. I opened my eyes and on the shelf eye level across from me was Amber. I was confused as to A, why she was upstairs, and B, how she got on my shelf. As I was thinking this, whilst maintaining eye contact, she stuck out a paw and swiped one action figure off the shelf. I didn't react at first, so she did another, and another. By the third I realized what she was doing and I said her name in shock, to which she hopped off the shelf and left my room like it was nothing. And that confirmed my suspicions that Amber held grudges and exacted revenge. My cat would do that at 4 AM. I used to work night shift and get home around then and play with her. When my shift changed she would try to wake me up at 4 to play. If I ignored her, that's what she would do. Knock crap down while looking at me. When I would get up all pee off she would start purring. My dog understands Christmas, as in, he will sit where the tree goes throughout November. Once the tree is up, he'll lie beside it crying. Once there are presents, he'll paw at them and carry them to us because he wants to open them. On Christmas he starts trying to wake everyone up around 5 and begins howling around 7. And I kid you not, he will open his presents like a 5 or 6-year-old and excitedly run around with a toy or treat for a minute before looking for the next present. One year we had less than 5 things for him to open, so he stole a present from me. The image you created in my head is so dang cute. My cat taught herself to fetch and hugs my arm for attention. She learned that when I tap twice on a surface I want her there. She follows me around because I give her hugs and food. She also knows that she shouldn't go outside. She was a stray and stays clear of accidentally open doors now. Mine was a stray too, trained to come on command. He always obeys, but talks back so much. He can never just comply. He has to talk and talk while he does it. He also prefers rubs to treats. My stray is allowed outside so long as he has his harness. Also stays on my shoulders when going out, and loves car rides. I'm a dog person, but love this dude. My dog is afraid of the smoke alarm. After a while he discovered the toaster could set the alarm off if toast burned, so he became scared of the toaster. Eventually he figured out the noise the bread bag made as it preceded the toaster noise, so he became scared of that. Eventually he figured out the kettle turning in usually accompany the bread bag noise, so he became scared of that. Now we have just reached the point that he has figured out the time of day we go into the kitchen to turn on the kettle and open the bread bag, so he has scheduled his fear to that. I am always blown away how he has been able to figure all this out. Not sure if it is really that smart, but it impresses me. Remus usually uses his brains for evil, but he's remarkably good at knowing when I have nightmares and waking me up, often before I realize that the nightmare is happening. He sleeps right next to me and always has to be touching me with his paw so that he knows when something is up. Best cat ever. He's also remarkable at knowing when I'm depressed and need to get moving out of the house, go do something. I've got a housemate who's allergic to cats, so he stays in my bedroom or with me in my office while I'm working, and if he notices I'm spending too much time laying in bed, he'll go scratch and meow at the door and generally making a ruckus to get me up, moving, and working. What's even neater is he somehow knows the difference between me chilling because I'm on vacation or have the flu or something and won't bother me then. Where to begin with this question? My pup knows that she's not allowed in the kitchen, so she assumes that the cat isn't allowed either. Of course, when he inevitably goes in there, she'll run over and either do a quiet bark or nudge my feet until I'll look at her and she'll herd me towards the kitchen to Tattletale. Same goes when the cat is scratching on furniture he's not supposed to be or meowing. Can't think of anything else at the moment, but this definitely isn't the only example. I'm surprised your cat hasn't already taught her that snitches get stitches. My cat was displeased to be shut out of the bedroom when one of us was playing with the Oculus Rift. So she scaled the laundry rack to the top of the bathroom door, jumped from there to the roof window, ambled across the roof and dropped down into the bedroom through the other open window, then jumped on my husband's lap. He was rather surprised, as you can imagine. She was 6 months old at the time. My cat wanted to join me the bath once. I locked it downstairs. It did a Beatles and came in through the bathroom window. During my teens I had a cat and a dog. The dog door that led outside had a door that we could close and lock with a latch. The cat learned how to not only shut the door but lock it as well. So she started locking the dog outside when he went out. He was a cowardly dog, so really she just had to sit inside in front of the door and he'd be too nervous to come back in. He just needed some courage. My 16-year-old dog knows my 2 puppies can get up the stairs but won't go back down. So when they are annoying him by trying to get him to play, he will play for a few seconds to get them to chase him, then run straight upstairs with them following. As soon as they are up he turns round and walks downstairs before going back to sleep. He also uses an angled mirror in my room to spy on the stairs from his basket. You can tell he knows it is a reflection and not the real thing, because if you gesture for him to come from the top of the stairs he will run straight round the corner to you and not to the mirror. I had a cat named Buddha and I'd had him for about 3 years. I noticed that there was pee in the toilet, so I asked my boyfriend if he'd stopped flushing or what. Then one day, we were both in the bathroom and he said, "What is Buddha doing?" Buddha was on the toilet, peeing into it. He must have learned from watching me. I never taught him. He only peed in there. No poop, but it was the funniest thing. I have a picture of it because no one believed me. God, I miss him. He became enlightened. When my dog doesn't want to be outside, she pretends to pee. She makes eye contact with me while she squats to pee. Only she isn't very good at pretending to pee for a convincing amount of time. She will do it for about 1 second. Then she gets excited and as a good girl jumps and spins and acts like it's time to come back inside. My ferret knew he was supposed to poop before we let him out of the cage, but at one point he learned to fake it. He'd back into the corner of the litter box, scrunch down, even flex the usual muscles, then trot over to the door to be let out. Fooled me quite a few times before I caught on. He did a very convincing job. My dog has crap on the floor and casually placed my husband's underwear over it. Stolen the cat treats bag and hid it behind the entertainment center. Has been the only dog to break out of his boarding kennel, find his own bag, and walk around the front waiting for a walk. He's a dong, but such a sweet baby. Crap on the floor and casually place my husband's underwear over it. Why yeah, it was the dog, I swear. He even put those skid marks in there too. I had a service dog a few years ago. At the time I was staying with my mother for the weekend because I was in between leases on apartments. That being said, Jude one day decided he would jump into my mother's lap and then paw at her face. Something he'd never done before, and he ended up scratching a good size cut on her upper lip close to the nose. How was this worryingly smart? The skin looked strange to my mother and me. She made an appointment at the doctor's office, and we found out she had skin cancer in that exact spot. My mother ended up having surgery to remove the cancer. As of today, all is well. My mother is doing fine. Jude is still a good boy and gets lots of love for what originally thought was him being a brat. Before we moved overseas, we gave our cat to a family friend who lived 100 miles away. Our cat went missing and was found some time later on the opposite side of a divided highway from our exit. He was so close, but he couldn't figure out how to cross over without getting hit. This was no straight shot, either. He went missing in Montauk, NY, and was found in Westchester, which some of you will recognize means he walked across the entirety of New York City. I have two Russian blue cats that hate each other. One has a crinkle toy that it loves. Long story short, the other cat took her paw and crinkled the toy 3 times, then walked slowly behind the corner to wait for the other cat to come into the room so she could beat the pee out of her. My cat learned how to turn on the television. More importantly, the cat has a favorite show. So my daughter would come home from school, and if she had a good day, I'd let her watch television as she had her afternoon snack. She invariably chose cute cat videos on YouTube. She would sit on the couch with our cat next to her and both of them would watch with full attention. One day, while my daughter was at school, I heard the TV turn on by itself. I got up to investigate and I saw the cat standing on the couch mashing its paws on the remote, looking at the TV, then looking back at the remote to mash buttons. I realized that the cat wanted to watch cute cat videos even though his human wasn't home yet. When I turned on YouTube to do just that, the cat settled down and watched attentively. The cat will now occasionally come to me, my wife, or my daughter, dragging or batting the remote across the floor when he wants to watch TV. Back when I was a kid, my family had an incredibly intelligent Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. She had somehow managed to learn several dozen different words, to the point where we could tell her to go find certain people, to wait for us in certain rooms, or to pick out specific items from her collection of about 15 different toys. This dog would even obey remarkably detailed commands combining those elements, like go get your hedgehog, then bring it to dad in his office. Suffice to say, she was a damned remarkable pet. Now, this dog's favorite toy was a little stuffed animal that was vaguely shaped like a human, which we referred to as her baby. She would wrestle with it, tote it around the house, and keep it right next to her whenever the family would gather to watch a movie or something. After a year or so of such adventures, though, the toy started to get a little bit worn out, so my mother decided to replace it. In an effort to surprise the dog, she discreetly put the old baby in the garbage, then stood in the middle of the living room with the new one behind her back. KOD, my mother called. The dog's name was KOD, though we pronounced every letter. KOD, come here as expected. The dog came bounding into the room, a happy spring in her step. Where's your baby? Go get your baby. Everyone expected the dog to approach the corner where her toys were kept, discover the item was missing, then mount a search for it. She'd done similar things in the past. After all, with hide and seek being one of the many games she seemingly enjoyed. But rather than behaving as anticipated, KOD trotted over to the trash compactor and started pressing on its foot pedal with her paws. She wasn't heavy enough to get the thing open, but the intention was clear enough. In the end, KOD wound up with 2 babies. TLDR. Clever canine counters caper. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.